What if Donald Duck became Wolverine? So this is a giant one-shot by Disney, and this is a translated comic of a French comic, I'm assuming. 'Cause, we have like the edited and we have the BD in the credits, and all the names involved in this are French. So that's pretty much the reason why I decided to check it out, is because I've heard that the Disney French comics are actually really freaking good. Out of everything coming out of Disney, the Disney French comics are like the best thing. So I was like, all right, I gotta check this out. Especially since I like Donald Duck. He's my favorite Disney character. That's basically what this entire one shot is what if Donald Duck became Wolverine? We start off with Pete, who has taken over DUCKBURG. He is no longer just Pete, he is now Pete Skull. And he has his goons like pillaging the stores and stuff. And then we cut to a farm where Donald is just sleeping. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to sleep and sleep and sleep. Like, I want to sleep a couple hours. Oh, maybe a couple more days. I'm like, I feel you, buddy. I completely understand. I'm not lazy or anything, but I got sleep issues that I just want to sleep a lot. So Granny shows up, tries to get Donald to work on her farm. She's like, hey, like, you've been doing nothing but sleeping. If you don't help me with the farm, then you're not going to get any like dessert. Like, you're not going to get any of my pie, my apple pie. And that's when Mickey shows up. And this is Mickey-Hawkeye. All I can think of is, couldn't you guys come up with something a little bit more clever than Mickey-Hawkeye? You got Pete Skull, you got Donald Wolverine, and you got Mickey-Hawkeye. Could you not like just come up with unique ways? Like Donald Reen or Mick-Eye or something? I don't know. Maybe Mouse-Eye instead of Hawkeye because he's a mouse. It just feels weird to just tack on the superhero name to the end of their first name. So Mickey's like, hey, I need your help. You're the only one that could help me because of your anger. You get pissed off easily, and I need that to help stop Pete. You're the only one that could help me. He has all the superhero weapons and stuff like that, and I need to get those super weapons back and return them to their rightful heroic owners. And Donald's is like, all right, sounds awesome. Best of luck to you. You know, I can't help you. My whole bad temper, that was all in the past. I'm a different duck now. I don't get angry anymore. And Mickey's like, oh yeah? And Mickey shoots an apple and it falls on Donald's head, and Donald just pissed off and starts yelling. And yeah, Donald is not tranquilo. He is he's still the old Donald. And then that's when we get Mickey saying, hey, remember what happened when Gyro tried to calm your outbursts for good? And then we have a flashback. And this has been my biggest critique with this issue, is that we get a lot of these. We get a lot of these, hey, remember when? And then we get a flashback. The whole like Family Guy thing. Remember when this happened? And then we see a flashback of it happening. And then remember when this happened? And then we see a flashback of it happening. And I didn't care for that too much. I feel like that's just a very weak way of getting some quick comedy gags. I would have preferred it more if the entire issue was Mickey and Donald teaming up to take on Pete. Like, we do get that, but we get a little bit of that because most of this issue is them on their journey to Pete's hideout. And it's just a lot of, hey, remember when, remember when, remember when. And that's just not interesting way to tell a story, in my personal opinion. So we get a lot of that. We get Gyro basically putting Donald in the Weapon X helmet. In this case, he's going to be flooding his mind with a bunch of images of all the people that annoy him. And I guess this is supposed to be kind of like cognitive behavior therapy or exposure therapy, where like I'm going to expose you to all the things that you hate, and over time you're going to get used to it, and then it's not going to bother you anymore. But instead, Donald just freaks out and starts breaking all the machines. We cut back to the present day where Granny's like, hey, I made some apple pie. Donald, if you want some, you have to do some farm work. There's a giant rock in the way. I need you to move it. So instead, Donald just busts out his claws and he slices it into pebbles, and then he just carries the pebbles away. And so he gets to eat some of Granny's apple pie. And then we just have like them going on their little journey where they hop into Mickey's car, which has Goofy Hulk. Yeah, they just call him Goofy Hulk. I don't know, you could have called him like the Incredible Goof or something like that. I don't know. Just something unique rather than, again, just tackling on the superhero name to their first name. But they go on this journey. They're riding, you know, in Mickey's car. And then Donald's like, you know, I don't want to work with Goofy. We're not friends. And Goofy's like, but we were, don't you remember? And then we get a flashback to them being scientists. And then they start driving in the car, and Donald starts to fall asleep when Goofy's like, "Hey, remember all the adventures we used to have together, like our first encounter?" And then we have a flashback to the first encounter where Goofy is lost and he asks Donald for directions. And it's like we just get a lot of these. Where again, like we have another one where Mickey's like, "Hey, remember the first missions with the X Duck?" And then we see Donald and Pluto is now Colossus, and he's just called Pluto Colossus. And they do the fastball special. Only here, it's Pluto's just kicking Donald in the butt and launching him, and Donald attacks a giant plant, and he gets super pissed off because the plant's green, and Donald had something with the color green. Whenever he sees the color green, he just like freaks out and goes on a rampage. So yeah, we just have like that until eventually they come across Scrooge McDuck's house, which has now been taken over by Pete, and they get surrounded by Pete's men, the Beagle Boys, and they get tied up, taken to Pete. I like how Pete just basically has just Pete rules ran on everything. I'm like, yeah, this is a leader I can get behind. And the plan for Mickey was that, well, now that we're here, Goofy's going to turn green to piss off Donald, and then I'm going to shoot this arrow that's going to splatter green paint over everybody, and Donald just freaks out. Like, he sees so much green that he breaks through his chains and starts attacking everybody. Yeah, the day is saved because Donald can't stand the color green. The Beagle Boys and Pete get thrown into prison, and Scrooge McDuck gets his business back. He gets his house back. He gets his money pit back. And then he forces Donald to clean all of his coins by hand. And that's the reward that Donald gets for saving the day. And yeah, that's basically the issue. I thought it was okay. Like, some of the gags were interesting. The artwork is awesome. I mean, the artwork is like straight up Donald Duck, DuckTales, that kind of artwork. So it takes me back. And I like seeing these characters and stuff. I think this is a very interesting premise, but I feel like it suffers too much from the Family Guy Remember When gags. Like, that's what the majority of this entire one shot is. Most of it is just, hey, remember when this happened? Remember this? Remember that? Remember. And it's like, it would have been better if we didn't have all that. You don't need to give us all these flashbacks. Just tell me the story of Donald and Mickey going to save the day. You could have started off with Mickey, maybe him and his superhero group are trying to stop Pete, but then all of them get captured except for Mickey. He's able to escape, and he's like, well, all my friends have been taken prisoner by Pete, and he has all their weapons, and now the only one that's free that might be able to help me is Donald. But the problem is that Donald is hard to control because he's very, very angry all the time. So we got to figure out a way to channel that anger towards Pete and nothing else. And then you could have just had something like that. Or maybe Donald, like, he has to do a little bit of training. He has to, like, control his anger. Maybe he slept so much, like, he's like, you know what? I just want to laze about all the time. That he got overweight, and now we got to get him into training shape. Because he has, like, you know, some superhero rust because he's just been sleeping all the time. Maybe something like that. I don't know. I feel like you could have done something to just have one story. And by what I mean by one story, it's just one present day story without all these flashbacks. Without all these flashback remember when gags. Because I feel like that just takes me out. It completely disrupts the flow of the story. Like, I was like, okay, I'm with you. And then all of a sudden, remember when, and then we got to get a flashback. And then we cut back to the present, and then we're with it for a while, and then it's like, oh, and then remember when this happened, and then we cut back to another flashback. And then we're back to the present, and then it's like, oh, okay, remember when that happened? And then we got another flashback. And it's like, Jesus, man, like, I just want one cohesive story. Just Mickey picks Donald, they go to Pete, they fight Pete, they win. And you could build upon that with some of the suggestions I said, where, you know, Mickey's friends get captured. Donald has to get into training shape. Maybe they come across a group that Pete has guarding the outskirts of the city or whatever. I don't know. You could have done something, but it's just the remember when gags just kind of bring the story down for me. So in the end, I did enjoy it. I did find it entertaining, but it could have been a lot better than what it ended up being. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It's good, but that's about it. And it could have been a lot better. And again, I know, like, this is a kid's comic. This isn't, like, for me. But it's like, you know what? I could still enjoy stuff like this. Like, I grew up on these kind of stories. Stories like this used to be, like, very popular in Portugal. which is where my family's from. And I used to collect like the Scrooge McDuck, Donald Duck comics. I have just like a bunch of them that I used to get from Portugal all the time. And I love this stuff. Like I grew up on this stuff. And of course, you know, DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and all that stuff. So I can still like fully enjoy things like this because it takes me back and I can put myself back into that mindset and things like that. And like I said before, there's like a good story here. It's just it kind of gets ruined by all the remember when flashbacks. So if we just kind of get rid of that and just tell a more coherent story, I think this would have been a lot better. But because they didn't, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It was still entertaining, but not as great as it could have been. But there you go. There's What If Donald Duck Became Wolverine. Hope that you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.